Hello, everyone, and welcome to an emergency podcast. An emergency Trek movie podcast between the Shuttle Pod and Star Trek All Access podcasts. The two best Trek movie podcasts, I would say. Today we have gathered myself, Kayla Camino, Brian Drew.
Hello.
Laurie Ulster.
Hello.
And Anthony Pascal.
Ahoy.
To talk about the news that Prodigy has been canceled.
The shocking news.
To weep about the news. The Prodigy
canceled.
has been canceled.
It's weird, right? It's not just that it's been canceled. It's being totally removed from Paramount Plus. And the second season, which is pretty much getting close to being finished, is maybe still going to air, but not on Paramount Plus.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, this isn't, we're talking about Prodigy, but it's not like they singled out Prodigy. This is kind of a bigger issue with Paramount in general. So Paramount's about to merge Showtime into Paramount Plus, and they're using this as an opportunity, as all the other, Disney's done this, others, of taking certain shows and removing them from the service so they don't have to pay, they can take tax write-offs and royalties, not have to pay certain residuals. It's a money saver. Prodigy and a number of other shows, like the new Grease prequel that
the Pink Ladies thing. Yeah.
That nobody asked for.
But, it's surprising that one of the Star Trek shows was in this list.
Yeah.
On the day that Paramount Plus and Showtime, which is Tuesday, come together as one, these shows will literally disappear. But Prodigy is a special case in that post-production on season 2 is well underway, and that's 20 more episodes. And so they are actively shopping season 1 and 2 to someone else, but we don't know who.
That's such a weird decision to me. Like, they made the show. It's their own show. So it's not like they're paying a licensing fee for it. Sure, they have to pay residuals or what have you, but really? If people are watching it, they don't see the value in having that viewer watch the show, even though they have to pay a residual for it. And frankly, are they really paying that much money?
I guess the question then is how many people are watching it?
That's what I was going to say. Like, it might just be that they don't have enough.
But if nothing's getting paid, don't they only get paid out if someone watches it?
That's not. It's the streaming deals are different that way. It's that's the old TV model, but still,
right. Which is also one of the things that's in dispute right now, and why the writers are on strike.
Right.
Obviously, it makes financial sense for these companies to do this because they're all doing it. Disney did it. Disney, the biggest, most successful entertainment company out there, they just pulled that. Like they made a Willow show,
brand new show,
and that's gone. And other things, so HBO Max kind of pioneered this after Discovery took over, and they
pulled a show. Didn't they pull a show before it even aired? Like they finished it. It was done. I believe they had a show that was completely finished and ready to go.
The Batgirl movie.
That was one.
They just erased it. And they're not even trying to shop it around. That they're, so
they buried it. Yeah,
it's just gone.
And Michael Keaton is in that as Batman.
The good news is, and Paramount, emphasized this to us, is that season 2 is being completed, and they are hoping to find a home for it, but there's no news on when or where.
But again, hoping is not guaranteed.
Well, they're highly motivated because they'll make money off of it. They are still paying these people to finish season 2, and they will be for a while, because season 2 is going to be broken into 2 10-episode chunks, unless they decide to change that. The first 10 were supposed to come in winter, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
God, Paramount Plus is such a mess. Like with Star Trek, it's been such a mess. On again, off again with I don't even know what's on Paramount Plus right now in terms of Star Trek. Because they keep pulling things.
Oh, you mean like the library?
The movies came back.
Last month, finally, it was the home of everything. Finally, which the Will Wheaton in one of the ready rooms, he was finally able to say, Paramount Plus is the exclusive home to every show, every episode, and every movie. And now they won't be able to say that anymore because someone else will have one of the shows.
Right.
We hope.
I would be shocked if somebody doesn't pick it up, like Netflix or somebody.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big question of who. I can't imagine Disney Plus, but maybe Hulu.
Amazon.
Yeah, it's Hulu,
Netflix.
Amazon, or Netflix would be the three. Netflix has some other shows made by the Hagemans, so they have a relationship there, and they have a history of picking up shows that were canceled.
And this is a good show. This is not a schlocky kind of program that This is a high quality program that the studio is just kind of giving up on.
Well, that's what's so upsetting.
It's Emmy winning.
Yeah, I think they marketed the show kind of weirdly too.
Yeah.
Wow.
If at all.
When can we talk about the merchandise?
That too. But we'll get to that. We will get to that.
Okay.
But what Paramount is doing, as Tony alluded to, is part of just a larger thing that the industry is doing. And I think the idea that at one point that being the exclusive home for everything and hoarding all your original licensed material, like, Disney maybe potentially not hoarding all their Marvel stuff anymore and like licensing it out, or almost like its own weird version of the syndicated model coming back in an old weird way, and that they're going to sell some of their stuff to another vendor.
Yeah, HBO or whatever. What are they called now? Warner Discovery or Discovery Warner, whatever they're called.
Warner Brothers Discovery, WBD.
Sounds like a disease.
They're in licensing talks with Netflix for a bunch of HBO shows.
HBO isn't HBO anymore? What do we wait?
And apparently, by the way, they've already sold some stuff to Hulu, which is apparently just went under the radar completely. Hulu apparently has got a bunch of HBO shows right now.
How is the average consumer supposed to keep track of all of this?
I know.
Like when it was on Channel 6, you just turn on Channel 6. It doesn't matter.
I'm starting to really miss that. It's like, you know what?
You're really going back in my day, aren't you, Kayla?
I know. I was going to say, I'm older than you guys, and I don't miss, Channel 6.
No, but it was a lot simpler to find what you were looking for.
That's what I mean. Yeah, you call your friend, and you're just like, just turn on Channel 6. You don't have to be like, well, turn on KBMU, whatever. Like, you don't have to memorize all the different networks.
I know what I mean. For me, I have an app that I can just look up any show and it tells me what it's on, and I tell it what I've subscribed to, which helps. But I do find with the shows I follow on streaming, I almost never remember what night new episodes are on.
Well, and then they're switching networks.
Right. And then they move, so that makes it even trickier.
Right.
Yeah.
The Hagemans put out a very gracious statement talking about how they strive for a better future and they have faith the show will be picked up. And they had a lot of nice things to say about the talented team. The Paramount statement that they sent us praised Kevin and Dan Hageman and the rest of the team. So they're all playing nice. Apparently the producer of the Grease spinoff is not playing nice. She's pissed.
She's very pissed.
Well, has it even aired at all yet?
It did.
Okay.
They did do marketing for that. I mean, I definitely saw marketing for that show.
That show was always kind of a weird long shot, though. Hey, let's give you the origin story of a movie that came out 45 years ago.
Shows like that were greenlit in the day when they were going through their catalogs, going and saying, let's see what we can make a franchise out of,
Right,
So
right.
Paramount has tried that with Fatal Attraction.
Right. Fatal Attraction, they were going to do it with the Parallax View. They were going to do it with Love Story.
Yeah.
Whoa.
All this goofy shit. Yeah.
I wonder if they even considered why Prodigy was singled out. Is it because they're just not interested in this target market anymore? Was it really underperforming that badly? Was it just it was really expensive for what it was? I think it's kind of that. For it's not ridiculously expensive, but for an animated show,
that's an aspect, no question.
It is more expensive, but it's not nearly as expensive as as one of the live action shows.
Right.
Those are many times more expensive.
Right, but we have Discovery's ending anyway, and Strange New Worlds they're pinning some hopes on, and Picard's done.
Right.
They have stuff they're developing, which I feel like those plans are maybe not as concrete as they have been.
Yeah, I agree, Laura.
I think one of the worst parts about this is how sudden it's been. I think everyone's just so shocked.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, it's going to be gone next week. It feels like it feels like a kick in the pants. It feels like they're trying to be mean. You know what I mean? And I know they're not, but to the fans, Apparently they don't care what the fans think because.
Well, Tony, you're more likely to know if this is true, so I'm just throwing out crazy thing I saw on the web. But that their fiscal year is ending and that the timing has to do with that.
Yeah. That's why when Disney did it, they did that at the exact same time.
Yeah,
Yep.
they did. I mean, this decision was definitely way above Alex Kurtzman.
Oh no, yeah, I'm not blaming him.
This was done by the CFO.
Absolutely.
This is not people who are watching shows and making decisions based on how they feel about them.
Nope.
No, I get that.
The bean counters made this decision,
but there's optics to that as well. Like even if they're so far disconnected from the fans, they still look like a dick for doing it. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Even if I get it, they don't get their bean counters. They are at that level where they don't care what the show is about. They don't care if people like it. They just want to get things balanced on spreadsheets. But isn't there someone's department to be like, hey, let's not piss people off when we do this and we say, oh, your show is going to be gone in 4 days or whatever?
Yes, that's why they they sent us all these friendly statements because they want it to seem copacetic. But I hate to say this, but people like the CEO and the CFO think much more about Wall Street analysts than they do about the mainstream entertainment media.
Oh,
and so
absolutely.
They're thinking about so Warner Brothers Discovery was applauded by Wall Street for some of its draconian moves that it was pilloried for by the entertainment media.
Right.
And so
that's what you're saying.
They're not listening to us.
That makes sense because there is the PR angle, but it's worth more to them to impress someone on the other side than it is to worry about pissing off someone on our side.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Or even like the brand, even the PR side of the brand, like we've been saying, home of all the Star Treks. Like that doesn't mean anything to them either.
And it means more to. I wasn't thinking of the other side of the equation where they're gaining something on that other side, on the fiscal side, for that move in particular. It's seen as bad on one side, good on the other, but the good side is worth a lot more to them.
Paramount Global is only valued at like $10 billion now or something like that. People are talking about it being acquired. There's one analyst who said they've basically got 2 years or it's over for the company and they're going to have to split up into pieces.
Which I don't know if I believe. I don't know if I buy into that, by the way.
No, but I mean, no one's saying that about Disney. They're saying that about companies like Lionsgate and Paramount. Basically, is like these companies are too small, and they aren't going to. They may not make it in this new media landscape, which is why people are now looking back to licensing and some of the old days. It's funny, like what's old is new again. So advertising is the hot thing in streaming now.
Yep.
Wall Street is obsessed with growth. It's like, can't you've 10 billion? Only 10 billion.
The streaming mess that we're in is actually Wall Street's fault.
Well, I just have to say, Paramount lost money today on the stock market because I own how many shares? Like 2 or something. But they lost money today.
The stock price went down?
Yeah, I mean, it's been trending down. Everything's trending down, but they lost money today.
They'll reveal how much money they saved. The big thing to watch will be in August. They took a real beating during their last quarterly reports when they cut their dividend. Wall Street just tore them a new one for that one. And I mean, they're literally selling pieces of the company off. So Sherry Redstone had to inject like $100 million into the company.
For what?
Just, to exist. The thing that's keeping them alive is that Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett, has a sizable position and he increased it. And so people are like, well, maybe he knows something we don't.
Mm-hmm.
But that's, some people are like, what does he know that we don't? But this is really getting into the weeds. Star Trek fans are basically.
So you're saying we should short Paramount?
Well, I wouldn't, because I think someone's going to buy them, and so it's going to get bought for more than $10 billion, either in pieces or as a whole. So I wouldn't short them. But that's.
I would love to see Apple pick them up. Actually,
I mean, Apple and Netflix would love to own Paramount's library, and even the physical studio on Melrose. They don't want CBS network. They certainly don't want the cable networks.
Right.
Mm.
And Sherry doesn't want to sell it in pieces. She's getting rid of certain things they don't want, like Simon & Schuster, BET, but they want to keep MTV, Comedy Central, CBS, and Paramount Plus and Paramount Studios.
So, I mean, a big question obviously is what happens to Star Trek, because Viacomization, we had the split of Star Trek, right, with the television shows and the movies, and then the licensing was with the television shows, and it was such a mess that it was all under one roof again. But it sounds like there's a danger that it will get split up again. If someone buys it and they say, we only want the Paramount movie library, we don't want any of the shows, what happens to the Trek shows?
I don't see them being spun off, because that's what happened the last time. Paramount got spun off of CBS, right? Tony, is that how it worked? I'm trying to remember.
Well, Viacom was one company, and they kind of split it in half with CBS, the broadcast and some other stuff leaving, and all the cable stuff, and CBS owned Star Trek technically, so they took Star Trek, but Paramount Pictures owned the movies. When I say the library, I mean all of it, TV into. So I don't imagine TV and movies being split up again.
No,
but I could see a world where Paramount starts creating new Star Trek shows for third parties. So I could see a brand new Star Trek show coming to Netflix.
But it would be, you're saying, behind the scenes, actually produced by Paramount and sold to Netflix?
Right.
Because that's like how a lot of the Netflix originals work. It's not like Netflix did the production of it. They just paid someone else after they did
Well,
it.
it's also kind of like the network TV model, where a studio would produce a TV show. Yeah. And then it would be like the original Star Trek was produced by Desilu and Paramount, but it was broadcast on NBC. So it would be that kind of a thing.
Okay.
Similar, not exactly the same, but like that kind of idea.
Basically, we're in for a bumpy ride for the next couple of years. Star Trek is owned by a company that is not in great shape. There's companies in worse shape. So it's kind of astounding, that, we got used to, like, oh my God, we have 5 active shows. And, I've always said that's kind of an accident. I think it never, that was more than they probably ever wanted. And Prodigy will be an active show for years. There's going to be new episodes coming out either this year, next year, and then more later. So,
do we know that?
Well, in theory, yeah.
They've spent so much already on season 2. I mean, they finished writing season 2 a year and a half ago. I mean, the post-production on this show is extensive. So, I guess they could just write it all off if they can't find someone to buy it.
What I meant was beyond season 2.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I don't see. I mean, maybe whoever buys it likes it and it works for them. We've seen shows that didn't work in one place or worked kind of, like Schitt's Creek is a great example of a show that nobody even heard of. It was on this network called Pop, which actually was owned by CBS, I believe, and it aired in Canada. And then they bought it and it was huge. Netflix has a much bigger footprint, and it's easier for a show to do better. It's also easy for a show to just get buried there. Some people say, wouldn't it be great if Netflix bought Paramount, which has been rumored. I'm not sure that would be great. I mean, I don't think you'd ever get shows to go more than 3 seasons, which isn't necessarily bad.
Well, that's Netflix loves to have short. They don't like the long-term shows anyway.
Yeah. Nope.
But I think, the Next Generation and the Deep Space Nine libraries in particular are got to be worth a lot. I mean, I don't know how those things are actually monetized in the end, other than, it brings us viewers. Just like someone will sign up just to see this one thing. But my understanding was that like the Next Generation show and Deep Space Nine, like streaming on Netflix, was pretty heavily watched.
And Voyager.
Voyager for sure too.
It could be that we now see a reverse, and they'll start licensing the catalog as well. We've been talking about their original shows.
So you don't think where one goes, it all goes? It could be split as well? I mean, we just don't know, but is that a possibility?
But that's the most likely possibility.
Yeah.
I don't think they're looking for one partner. I think they're looking to sell to whoever, these different shows to different partners. And there's a difference between the licensed stuff and are they going to start selling the catalog stuff again? But it wouldn't be exclusive. Like I can't see a world where they sell the Star Trek library exclusively, and I'm talking about Next Gen and Voyager, to someone like Netflix. It would be like they used to do, which is everybody could have it.
Okay.
Yeah, it was on all the major players for a while.
Yeah, you can go on any streaming service at one point and get TOS and TNG without any problem.
Yeah.
And, I've always said that that was great because it allowed for discovery, of just people who have Netflix and then recommended, oh, you should watch the Star Trek thing. Or,
We've all heard people say that they haven't watched the new shows because they don't have Paramount Plus, because there wasn't anything else there for a while that people even were interested in.
Oh, back when it was All Access? Yeah.
Yeah.
All Access
even into Paramount Plus, there are people who
there's
are
a lot more there
what
now,
else do they have? What else do they have? They don't know. And people aren't like me where I subscribe to billions of streaming things, and they really have to pick the ones that they're investing their money in.
Thinking about this podcast, we're basically saying we know like 2 or 3 facts and then there's like 17 things we don't know.
Well, let's talk about how angry we are. Let's shift to the emotional section.
Because Prodigy, as I always say on our podcast, is my favorite of all the new shows. I just love it so much. I feel like it's exactly what Star Trek is about.
Yes,
it's new characters, lots of new aliens, new planets, new experiences, deeply rooted in the core of what Star Trek is about.
Yeah, lifting each other up and caring for each other and learning and growing.
Yep.
I went into the show just assuming it might be okay, or, even thinking, it's just not going to be for me because it's not targeted at me, but I'm glad it existed. And I've loved the show, and it's been just a delightful surprise how much I've loved the show. And
it's a very sweet show.
Yeah, it honors the canon, but it's not, it certainly didn't start off. The whole point of the show was to start off where there were very little connections to the canon, because they wanted to bring in new viewers, and they slowly but surely added more elements during the first 20 episodes.
And I feel like there's so much, the episodes are short. They pack in so much adventure and so much story, and never compromise on deep, rich character, emotional experiences at the same time. It's pretty extraordinary.
What's sad is I've seen a lot of Star Trek fans say, I'm not going to watch that. It's animated. It's for kids. It's stupid.
Yeah, I know a few people like that. Yeah. A lot of people don't care for animation. They're just not animation fans, So.
But I wouldn't say I'm specifically an animation fan, but the animation on that show is gorgeous.
It is.
Like, it's the opposite of discouraging. You watch it and it's beautiful and breathtaking and captivating.
Yeah, it's not a kiddie show. And there's nothing wrong with kiddie shows.
Like, kids can watch it, but it's not like adults can't watch it. It's not for like little kids.
Right.
Exactly.
I think it's too intense for little kids.
But I think if you had a little kid in the room with you, they could watch it. I don't see any problem with that.
Oh, absolutely.
It's great to watch with kids, which I've done. I wish more of those Star Trek fans, they missed out, and now it's over. Except it's not over, I don't think. There will be many months where it is over. There will be nowhere you could watch it. We don't know what's going to happen on Nickelodeon, the TV channel. We don't know what's going to happen internationally. So if you're listening to this for all of those answers, I'm sorry. But
what's out on DVD at this point for Prodigy? Or is it just the first 10?
Yeah.
Just the first 10, yes.
First half, yep.
They decided to call it Volume 1 and 2 of Season 1 and 2, adding up to 40 episodes. I mean, another thing that I love about the show is the people behind it, the Hagemans and Aaron Watke and Chad and the Shauna Benson and
the Benson sisters. I love that they're sisters and brothers working on the show.
Some of them are, Aaron, took our Star Trek quiz. I mean, he is as nerdy as you get, but they all have such a passion for the show. They're not phoning it in. And the cast as well, most of whom really didn't know anything about Star Trek, but have really grown to love it. And then you've got Kate Mulgrew, who's really doing a great job on the show. So,
and people were also expecting to see more Voyager characters find their way in. So there was a lot to anticipate also.
But again, there's still 20 episodes to see.
Well,
I'm almost certain we will see more Voyager characters and more, let's just assume someone buys it, then that will happen. We'll just watch it on whatever, on System X. Season 2, I think, is going to be great.
I wish we could buy it.
I'd start a GoFundMe.
I know. Imagine
The
if we could
TrekMovie
buy
streaming
it.
channel.
It'd be
How
so
much?
fun.
It would, I don't know how many million do you got? I mean, it would be many millions.
Many millions, yes.
We could raise a few million on a GoFundMe.
I guess. I mean, the whole point was not enough people are watching it.
Right.
Which,
We're not doing this to make money. We're just doing it to do it.
So that we can collectively own it with tons of other people.
Right.
Yeah. Does anyone out there have a few $1 million and they want to just buy it? You should do it. You should totally do that. It's a really good idea. There's plenty of people out there for which, $5 million is like they wouldn't even notice that it was gone. And if one of you is listening to this, just do it just because you can.
Come on, please. We really want you to. Yeah.
In the end, if it moves to another network and it gets 40 episodes, that's a pretty good run in the modern era. It's just weird that it popped from one network to another, but
just like I said, it just feels like a kick in the pants. How it was just sprung on us.
Yeah.
In the middle of my workday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how they could have told us gradually, to be honest.
Well,
there's no way to
more lead time.
Yeah, they could have announced this, months ago to say the following shows are, I mean, I think, yeah, the less than a week. It's a little bit like when Discovery season 4 was coming out and internationally there was this issue with Netflix and it just disappeared from Netflix.
Oh, that's right.
I remember, international fans were just pissed, really pissed. And
Justifiably so.
Yeah, they issued an apology. They put it on Pluto internationally. And, by the way, I would be surprised if the show, maybe the first bunch of episodes ends up on Pluto.
I was wondering that
as well. I think, we just left an era where shows weren't getting canceled a lot and there was more and more new stuff, but that gold rush is over.
Yeah.
So is so much for the golden era of Star Trek, huh?
Yeah, but maybe this will bring in a new, I think we're going to start seeing Star Trek miniseries and maybe Star Trek shows on other networks.
I'd be into that.
Yeah.
Depending on who made it.
Yeah.
Maybe lower budget Star Trek shows.
That is fine. I don't know where this obsession with these massive budget things came. Like, remember when Discovery was starting and everyone was like, oh, it's going to be like Game of Thrones level budget. And they're going to import this fabric for the uniforms that have.
Oh my God, I remember the uniforms.
From Sweden?
With tiny things printed on them that no one can see. It was, there were some very strange budget decisions made early on.
It's like none of this look at the original series. Like, look what they were working with then. And they told amazing stories and we still love it.
Yeah.
But that was a big budget show for its time.
Yeah.
It was.
It's just that they also found ways to cut corners. Season 3 is when they were stealing sets from Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
But the first couple seasons,
nothing. There's big budget for its time, and then there's Game of Thrones level funding,
right, which
just
didn't exist. The phrase prestige TV didn't exist.
Right.
It's unnecessary. Completely unnecessary. Like there's a point of limited returns.
Yeah.
Once you spend more money on something, you can't just keep throwing money at it and it doesn't just get that much better because you've added another dollar. You don't get the dollar's worth out of it. It's like you've already thrown $1 billion at it. $1 billion and one isn't going to do anything. It's just stop.
Yeah. I think that, that's slowly, coming to an end as well. The kind of crazy budgets for all of these shows, not just Star Trek, but all of them.
That makes me happy.
Paramount and non-Paramount. But I think, I guess the question is Paramount pivoting, because the combination with Showtime, do they want to pivot the whole thing to a more adult audience? Is that part of the reason why? But, they got rid of the Pink Ladies. They got rid of one of the drag shows. I'm not sure there's a pattern there, to be perfectly honest. And they still have all that other Nickelodeon content, all that SpongeBob stuff. That should be bringing in families, shouldn't it?
Yeah, you would think so. I did want to address one thing I saw a bit of on Twitter today, that people were freaking out thinking, okay, well, if they're going to do it to Prodigy, what Star Trek show is next? Who are they going to do this to next? I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. I don't see them doing this again to any of the other Trek shows.
It's not about Star Trek. Like, that's the thing. The
Right.
decision has nothing to do with Star Trek.
Right,
So
but
they're
that's
not
what I'm
going,
trying to say. It's really,
Right.
it's not really about Trek.
They could save some big short-term money if they yanked Discovery off, for example, because that was an expensive show.
Right.
And they killed the fifth season. They called the fifth season a loss. But I don't see this happening to those other shows. I do imagine that, like, Discovery will get licensed to other, third parties after it's done on Paramount Plus.
Yeah, you would think so.
But Strange New Worlds, they are saying, they are committed to Strange New Worlds, Lower Deck Season 5, Strange New Worlds Season 3, the Section 31 movie, and the Academy show. That's the big question mark, is if Paramount Plus can't attract young viewers, can the Academy show work? Because it's also going to be very expensive.
Is it? I was under the impression that show was going to make heavy use of the Discovery sets.
Well, they're going to use those sets as a start, but then they're going to need even more. And they're not redressing those sets; they're going to rebuild. And
okay, I was under the impression they were going to just try to do this as cheaply as they could, and that meant
because Discovery will be over once they start production on that show.
Well, Discovery is already wrapped now, right? The reshoots, they already did the reshoots, so.
Yeah, that's not really that much of a cost savings.
Okay, I was under the impression that was one of the motivating factors behind it.
They have the issue where they're gonna be an Academy show, but they're also going to be in space, so they need spaceship sets and they need classroom sets, and they'll probably be doing location shooting. So I've heard that it actually costs more.
Wow.
At least that was the plan. I could see someone saying maybe it shouldn't cost more.
Yeah,
and I think it shouldn't cost more. I think that it should cost. I'm not saying give it a budget like a CW show, but not, somewhere in between a CW show and a prestige TV show, I would say.
Right. Yeah.
Hopefully we'll learn more at Comic-Con. I do believe there will be a thing at Comic-Con. I don't know what, but they'll probably do one of their normal panels. It'll probably have Michelle Yeoh and stuff like that, but I'm hoping we learn more about this Academy show. And that's the big question mark. Is it going to work for Trek fans? Is going to attract that younger audience? If they're pivoting away from a younger audience, does it still make sense to do that show? But I think they're kind of sunk in.
I don't think Prodigy being written off is a sign that they're abandoning their attempt to get a younger audience. I think they just, whatever the financial reasons were, whether the show was too expensive, it didn't draw enough people, whatever, that's why they did what they did. I don't necessarily think it's necessarily a pivot away from trying to attract a younger audience.
it's not content strategy; it's budget strategy.
Yeah, it seems more like that.
Well said.
I mean, they recently announced a new season for another season for their Transformers animated show, which is also aimed at a younger audience. I would even say. I'm sure there's performance issues here, and I think this show costs more than that show. Anyway, I don't know if there's any. This was an emergency podcast. We don't have we kind of pulled this together quickly. We just wanted to talk about it. So does anyone, is there anything else people want to say about Prodigy or anything?
Yes. I want to say that now my website will never be updated, and it is a tragedy. Everyone can go to dotheysellamurfplusyet.com. The answer is no. I was hoping that one day I would be able to change that website to say yes, and now I fear I never will.
Oh,
yeah, the merchandise. We've said this on our podcast before that it like the Murph plush seemed like one of the most natural Star Trek licensing products in like the last 20 years. It's amazing that never happened.
Like, it seems like the character exists so that they could make toys of it.
I remember seeing when they first released the images of those characters. I was like, oh my God, that Murph is an immediate plush toy. It was so obvious when you saw the first pictures. It was like,
and in fact, there were people on like Etsy selling ones and people tweeting they'd made one for their kids because their kids wanted one. And
they actually made Murph plushes for New York Comic Con. They were very small.
They were like the size of it was an exclusive, only a few people got it, and it was the size of a marshmallow peep. Not good enough.
No.
Yeah, and you can get you could get a Badgie plush. I mean, they are making new. There is a license.
That's disturbing. I don't want that in my house.
No hugging Badgie for you?
No, that thing is psychotic.
It's gonna kill you.
I think
That's
they
like
have
having
both
a
versions.
Chucky doll.
Or a talking Tina.
They have evil Badgie and
very good, Laurie.
But they don't have a Murph plush.
It baffles me as well. You know, it's funny. Laurie is working on a review of the latest wave of Prodigy figures from Playmates,
which has no Rock Talk and no Janeway.
Right, and Janeway I think has been canceled.
And I guess they never had a plan for Rock Talk. My favorite character,
what the heck?
by the way. Hello, like I've been waiting for the Rock Talk plush. So, because she's my fave. But yeah, and no Janeway, that's insane.
None of this makes any sense. But they do have a mug that says the starship is landing.
Many and t-shirts and posters and everything.
T-shirts,
yeah,
the whole thing.
I bought the mug that says the starship is landing because I wanted to commemorate the stupidest era of Star Trek merchandise.
Weren't there different versions with different ships, including many
there
ships
was a
that
whole
do not
line
land?
They had one that said the Enterprise is landing.
The Voyager is landing.
I mean, the Voyager can land.
I know, but
But the Enterprise is landing is like, okay, I mean, we've talked about this. I don't want to drone on about it, but...
The licensing for Star Trek in the past decade has been somewhat challenged.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Problematic.
Yeah.
Disappointing, frankly. Yeah. We're not angry. We're just disappointed.
Yep. Hoping for better things down the road.
I guess, is that it for our emergency podcast?
Emergency.
All
hands on deck.
This concludes our Black Alert podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Black Alert.
That's very good, Kayla.
Been practicing.
So Aaron will keep posted on Twitter and the most upbeat response to all of this. So I feel like it might be a good note to go out on.
Yes.
He said, in a world of deep uncertainty, I choose joy. It can feel radical to reject cynicism, to try every day to make the world a tiny bit better. Hope is a tool. It can be a battery, a shield, or a weapon, and it can be used in service of others. We build a road stone by stone. And I will say, overall, I keep hearing this message. This message has been coming at me for weeks from different sources, things I'm reading, people I go to panels, which is, if you are cynical, they win because you believe you can't do anything about it and you lose hope. So I agree. It can feel radical to reject cynicism. So reject it. And let's hope it gets bought by somebody and that person is smart enough to order even more episodes.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe this will be a good thing in the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
There we go. Optimism.
Maybe it will be bought by someone that will make a Murph plush.
And a Rock Talk
That's
plush.
just crazy talk.
And a Rock Talk plush.
So we've got something to look forward to, is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Excellent.
All right.
Okay. Does everyone want to say goodbye?
Well, it's great to chat with you guys. We don't do these combo pods enough.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yep.
We'll all be seeing each other in Las Vegas. We'll be doing a panel together, and maybe we'll do another podcast there.
Yep.
That'd be awesome. Well, thanks everyone for joining us on this emergency TrekMovie podcast. Great to have the two pods back together again, and we will see you in Las Vegas.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.